some opens, then I'll go center, and then maybe I'll throw them off. I'll go back to 1 on each side, right? Then maybe I'll go maybe 2 here, maybe then I'll go open, then I'll go close, and then maybe 3 on the open side. I want to break it up so it makes it harder for them to like try to pick out the pattern. So it has to be more by the feel. Does that make sense? Right? Now, you're not going to be that way right away, but that's the goal that we're heading towards, is to be able to just freely feed in all the zones and be able to just freely pick up and be able to monitor and have a reflex, a response for the zones. So when talking about our open Hubud, there's some common mistakes that we see that happens, right? So just flow. So this is kind of like our desire for right now. Like we want to try to get to this point, right? But usually what happens is people have trouble like finding this structure, and it turns into like this big thing like this, which makes no sense. And what usually happens is the structure is breaking down. So because this is a pattern, he knows the pattern, I know the pattern, and I know he's going to trap me, right? And I'm going to trap him, he's going to trap me. And so typically what people do is they accept that and they let the hand drop. And it starts to turn into this. I'll just do it, right? And eventually he can't find the hand, and this hand really never learns how to come in and pocket or how to cover that zone. And it's not his fault, it's my fault. Because as a feeder, I'm not giving him a structure to train on. If there's nothing there, how can he ever develop the reflex or the response to deal with it, correct? So what I do to kind of combat this a little bit is I want you to think fingers up. Fingers up is arm up. What I mean by this, if my fingers point up, my arm stays up. If I let my fingers point down, my arm will come down. This is the same principle as like our eyes, right? Eyes up, eyes down, head down. Yes, no? Just the same. Think of like your fingertips as the eyes, okay? So what I wind up doing here, yeah, we hear it, Jory. So what I wind up doing here, look at my fingertips. See how they're still pointing up? This is the key. I don't allow my fingertips to come down. I keep them up so it keeps the structure up. So the whole time I play, look how my fingertips are pointing up to the sky. Now this isn't like all the time, but this is in the beginning as you're learning. If I can keep my fingertips and he keeps his fingertips always pointing up, we always have structures. But as soon as I start getting lazy and just kind of like letting that arm drop, it doesn't help him out at all, right? So we always want to keep the fingers up in the beginning as you're learning to keep the structure. Can we try this? Sure. All right, let's do it. Thanks, buddy. Let's go. Up until now, you've been doing what I refer to as open Hubud. And the reason why I refer to this as open Hubud is simply because we're feeding an open shot, okay? So think of Kali like an angle 1, right? Because it is an angle 1. That's an open feed, yes, no? Okay? So therefore, my open and his open. So this is open Hubud. Now, we also have closed angles in Kali, yes, no? Like your angle 2, correct? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to replace, keep going, my angle 1, which is here. I'm going to replace it when it's time to fire it with my angle 2, which is here. He's going to stop it, and then he's going to do the same motion. He's going to lift, he's going to trap, and he's going to feed that angle back. Okay? So now this just becomes closed Hubud. Okay? So when it gets time after the trap, when I trap, I can feed closed or I can go back to open. Okay? So now we've got open Hubud, and we've got closed Hubud. Open, closed. Open, closed. Okay? So we just think open and we think closed. This goes back to your danger zone theory as well. Yes, no? We think about that like, that line that split right down the center, 2 lines here, so you got a box here and a box here, yeah? We think about this in Kali all the time when it comes to the X, when it comes to the ECA, so we think about attacking into one box and attacking into the other. That's all I'm doing here now. I'm feeding into this danger zone, open. Right. Or if I want to feed into the other danger zone, I feed the closed. So he's just trying to feel if the attack or the danger is coming in from the closed side or coming in from the open side now. You just kind of get into the flow of it. Cool? Yes, no? Excellent. All right, I call that good. All right, give it a shot. Open, closed. Open, closed. Does that make sense? I want you to think it beats 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the same. So if you look at the open Hubud, okay, 2, I make the reference point. 3, I trap. Yes, no? Okay? So when I feed this to him, 2, he does a reference point. 3, he traps. So here's my feed. Here's my 1. Here's 2 and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So if this winds up going open, it's the same. He intercepts, and it's 2 and 3. 2 and 3. I almost sent you the open. Make sense? Okay? So we just think open, and we think closed. This goes back to your danger zone theory as well. Thinking about this concept, right? So we talked about, we had an open Hubud. Okay? And then we had a closed Hubud. Okay? So now we're going to do a center Hubud. Now, so when I feed center, I want you to understand this concept that I want to feed a center line to intercept the line center. What we wind up doing is we start this with a punch. Flow. We start this with a punch, but what winds up happening is people do this. They pull this off to the side because they're thinking like, oh, I'm going to punch him. And it's really just a line. I don't want this coming from over here because this is actually more open. I want this coming from my center line, like I'm grabbing my beard, right? I want my center line. He wants to fire from his center line. But as soon as we start this process of like pushing this over, it's not what we want because now I'm not on the center line anymore. So fire center, right? Because this could be finger jab. This could be palm. Get that right up to me. There you go. Yep. A little less tension. There you go. All right? But the center line is what I'm looking for. Now, once I understand the center, now I have the choice, right, of going either open, closed, or center. Now I have the choice, right, of going either open, closed, or center. And the center is just like dealing with center. It's just like dealing with the closed. When he sent the closed, okay, I intercepted with the hand, and then we said beats 2 and 3 were the same, right? I made the reference point, and I hit the trap. Yes, no? Well, it's the same idea. He stops it, hits a reference point, hits the trap, and fires. It's the same idea. So whether it fires closed or fires center doesn't really change. And I can make it open. And now you just start the process of playing in the different zones. Is it going to be open? Is it going to be closed? Is it going to be center? Maybe I feed him a bunch of closed ones, then maybe I'll feed him some opens, then I'll go center, and then maybe we'll throw them off. I'll go back to 1 on each side, right? Then maybe I'll go 2 here. Maybe then I'll go open. Then I'll go closed. And then maybe 3 on the open side. I want to break it up so that it makes it harder for them to try to pick out the pattern. So it has to be more by the feel. Does that make sense? Sure. Right? Now, you're not going to be that way right away, but that's the goal that we're heading towards, is to be able to just freely feed in all the zones and be able to just freely pick up and be able to monitor and have a reflex, a response for the zones versus just, oh, I'm trying to pick and choose what's coming. Instead, it becomes like, oh, whatever comes in, I already know how to respond to the zone. Make sense? All right, let's do it. So we looked at this with the empty hand, yeah? Yes, sir. So now let's take a look at this with the dagger, okay? So we're just going to use reverse grip. I want you guys to go nice and light, okay? But if you look at this, right, the open, close, and center concept still exists. Here's the open. All right, so this goes back to the weapon, right? Well, we talked about this in the beginning about if I just raise the elbow, it's already there, yeah? So it's the same idea, and this comes over. This is already in here. So if he doesn't develop the reflex to get into that zone in time, that's going to be difficult. Right? So we want to make sure that we start to develop the reflex. I don't want you to go that hard, though. So now we start to flow. So we have the open, and we have the closed. Yeah? And we have the center. I go close, I go open, I go close, I can go center, and we just start to play the game now. We just start to look at the different windows, or the different danger zones to play in. Open, close, center. And if you can remember that, that's kind of a lot for one day, to be honest with you. But if you can remember that, you can start to play right away. Now, there's other danger zones and other things we can add into this, but for right now, I just want you to stick with these 3. But I want you to see how the knife connects to the empty hand. So the same idea. Make sense? All right. Thank you, buddy. All right, let's do it.